Tonight, about 300, usually 100 are on hand, but they could not stop several thousand, my guess about 5,000 fans from pouring on the field after the last out was made. The fans tore up the field. It looked pretty bad. Still too early to tell on that. A police supervisor told me no serious injuries have been reported, but that, again, is still too early to tell. Now, right after the last out, we talked to many fans who had been waiting 13 years for the Mets to clinch a division championship.
I feel ecstatic. I couldn't feel any better. Mets are the greatest, number one. Long time, baby, long time.
They are number one. I'll be in Houston. I'll be here. They're going to the series for sure.
All the way, bro. Houston. Oh, you got Houston.
How'd you feel when the last out was made?
Pretty wild. Haven't seen this in a long time. It's great.
Now, you can't blame the fans for celebrating as long as they are non-violent. They have been that way thus far as we can determine. They did wait since 1973 for this. Now, there had been a plan by Harry M. Stevens, the concessionaire, to stop selling beer early. They usually stop selling beer after 7 innings. They would stop selling early if the crowd became unruly. But however, while they're chanting, "Let's go Mets," they have not been unruly as far as we could tell, and they sold beer until the end of the 7th inning. The vendors did, because they decided the fans were in pretty good shape. Right now, they sound like they've had a few beers, but you really can't blame them. Now let's go back to Al Albert.
All right, Matthew, and I'll be back later with a complete story of the Mets clinching along with the rest of the day in sports. Okay.
There is a loser in the world of sports tonight, but Joe Pepitone's loss could have been far worse. The former Yankees slugger was convicted of minor drug charges by a Brooklyn jury today, but he was cleared of more serious drug and weapons charges that could have landed him behind bars for life. Here was Pepitone's reaction.
Because I'm not a bad person. I never was. I never will be.
And the ex-Yankee, who sobbed with joy as the verdict was read, now faces up to a year in prison.
Tonight, a short but violent strike in Atlantic City by casino workers is over. Negotiators today reached a tentative contract agreement, but News 9's Reg Wells reports the walkout's impact is still being felt.
Union leaders began gathering this morning. A mediator had proposed a 2.9% increase every year for the next 3 years. A tentative agreement was reached, and the raise will average about 20 cents an hour for most restaurant workers and bartenders. Yesterday, to bring home their demands, about 5,000 striking employees took to the streets. They pelted cars, attacked buses, and broke windows. Union executives denied that members of Local 54 resorted to violence, and some shopkeepers agreed.
I really don't think the group that was marching on the boardwalk was connected with the Local 54.
They weren't carrying picket signs?
No, they were too young. I think they just picked up on what was going on and decided to go on a rampage.
After the tentative settlement, the big question was, how did things get out of control in Atlantic City?
The overall performance, the Atlantic City Police Force was a disgrace.
Well, some of the casinos are operated deplorably too. That's their opinion, and they're entitled to that. Our men were told to use discretion on the first night because the odds against us were 100 to 1.
More than 30 people were arrested during the violence. 40 others were injured. But many of the tourists here in Atlantic City say the city's image was damaged.
I didn't like it a bit. They had no sense acting like that. I mean, they could have a half-decent strike without tearing up stuff like that.
There has been a negative effect and a downside on this. It's something that certainly we in the city of Atlantic City don't countenance, so we don't encourage, and we don't want to see this happen.
Both sides are claiming they won in this very short strike, but most observers say this is really a no-win situation, a situation that has created a lot of ill will between the police department and the Casino Association, something that will probably take a long time to resolve. I'm Reg Wells, News 9, Atlantic City.
Casino operators are not revealing just how much damage was caused by the angry strikers.
The U.S. Senate tonight confirmed William Rehnquist as the 16th Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. That ends 3 months of heated debate over Rehnquist's nomination. He succeeds retiring Chief Justice Warren Burger. New Jersey Senators Bill Bradley and Frank Lautenberg opposed the nomination, as did New York Senator Daniel Moynihan, but New York Senator Alphonse D'Amato approved it. And we have late word that the Senate has just unanimously confirmed Trenton-born Antonin Scalia to fill Rehnquist's Associate Justice seat. And the Reagan administration has announced that it's kicking 25 Soviet diplomats out of the country. The State Department insists the expulsions have nothing to do with the arrest of American Nick Danilov in Moscow. The United States says the action is just part of cutbacks in the Soviet UN staff.
Another bombing in Paris today tops our news from around the world tonight. 5 people were killed, more than 50 injured when a bomb was thrown from the black BM.